The video games industry has evolved tremendously over the last 50 years. What was once considered just for nerds is now completely mainstream. In the US alone, over 70% of the population plays games on a regular basis. We've gone from simple low-pixel simulations like Pong to blockbuster experiences that fuse cutting-edge technology with breathtaking artistry. And today, games generate more than 3 times the revenue of music and the global box office combined. During COVID, games hit an all-time high, connecting people across the world when they needed it the most. But since then, growth has stalled. In the past 3 years, revenue has flattened, projects have been cancelled, studios have shut down, and thousands of developers have been laid off. Even major publishers are rethinking their strategies. Hi everyone, I'm Alex. Welcome to Life About Games. Today we will be taking a hard look at the state of the video game industry, what it looks like right now, the major challenges it's facing, and the opportunities that could shape its future. We'll talk about why AAA studios are under so much pressure, how market saturation is affecting everyone, from big publishers to small teams, and what players are telling us with their time and money. This channel is about more than news and reviews. It's about understanding how the industry works, celebrating the games that do it right, and giving developers and players alike a clearer picture of where games are headed. If that sounds like something you care about, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. So, where does the industry actually stand right now? First, it's huge. In 2024, video games generated over $182 billion in revenue, more than triple what music and the global box office made combined. Steam alone saw over 18,000 new releases last year, and development budgets, especially in the AAA space, keep getting bigger. Subscription models are now a major part of the landscape too, with Xbox Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, and others giving players instant access to huge libraries of games for a single monthly fee. But despite this scale, growth has stalled. After the COVID boom, the industry hit a wall. By the end of 2022, revenues contracted, and if we look at the entire 3-year period, growth has been essentially flat. That has created real pressure across the board. Major titles are underperforming. Publishers are canceling projects and consolidating teams. Studios, even large ones, are shutting their doors. And outside investment is drying up as venture capital moves on to the next hot thing. So, the question is, how did we get here? What's holding the industry back from its next wave of growth? Let's break down 4 of the biggest challenges shaping games today. Challenge 1. Decline in player hours. Most of the industry's growth over the past decade came from mobile gaming. Smartphones brought in millions of new players almost overnight. But that growth engine has now matured. In developed countries, everyone who wants a smartphone already has one. And with the rise of streaming services like Netflix and social platforms like TikTok and YouTube, there's more competition than ever for our time and attention. The result? People are simply spending fewer hours in video games, and that means less revenue to go around. Challenge 2. Market saturation and discoverability. Last year alone, more than 18,000 new titles launched on Steam. The sheer volume of games is overwhelming, and even great games are getting buried. Discovery has become one of the industry's biggest problems. Small studios can't compete with the marketing budgets of AAA publishers, and players often stick with what they already know. In fact, in 2023, over 90% of player time on PC and consoles was spent on games released in previous years. And nearly 40% of that time went to just a handful of franchises. In other words, new games aren't just competing with each other. They're competing against the entire backlog of gaming history. Challenge 3. Old growth engines are running out of steam. To stay safe, Publishers keep doubling down on sequels, remakes, remasters, and annual updates. And while those can be great, some players are starting to feel the fatigue. The same thing happens with genres. When a new hit breaks out, the entire industry chases it. Souls-likes, battle royales, live service games, the market is flooded with copycats, leading to oversaturation and, inevitably, disappointment when most of them fail to stick. Meanwhile, new growth areas like augmented reality and virtual reality are still moving slowly. VR headset adoption remains low, and AR has yet to produce another global phenomenon like Pokemon Go, which leaves companies hesitant to invest, creating a frustrating stalemate. Challenge 4: Rising costs and broken economics. Making games has never been more expensive. Teams are bigger, development cycles are longer, and marketing budgets can now match or even exceed production costs. This means even a game that sells millions can still be considered a disappointment. Just ask Square Enix, who publicly said Final Fantasy XVI underperformed, despite selling over 3 million copies in its first week. And here's the kicker: game prices haven't kept up with inflation. Super Mario Bros. 3 in the 90s sold for $49.99, the equivalent to more than $110 today. Most AAA games are still sold for $60 or $70. That gap between cost and price is putting massive pressure on publishers and investors. And we're seeing the consequences in game cancellations, layoffs, and studio closures. But it's not all bad news. In fact, we're seeing several promising opportunities that could define the next era of gaming if the industry is willing to embrace them. Opportunity 1: the rise of transmedia. Games are no longer just games. They're becoming massive entertainment franchises. The success of the Mario movie, as well as shows like The Last of Us, Arcane, and Fallout, proved that good adaptations can introduce millions of new people to these worlds and drive sales of the games themselves. With projects like Amazon's God of War series and the Legend of Zelda movie in development, we're only going to see more crossover between games, film, TV, and other media. This gives studios new revenue streams and helps players feel part of bigger, connected universes. Opportunity 2: Generative AI as a force multiplier. AI is controversial, but when used responsibly, it can transform the way games are made and played. On the development side, AI can take care of repetitive tasks like asset generation, QA testing, or localization, helping studios cut costs and speed up production cycles. This gives developers more time to focus on creativity and polish. But AI isn't just about efficiency. It could also open the door to entirely new kinds of experiences. Smarter NPC behavior, reactive storytelling, and player-generated content could lead to genres we haven't even imagined yet, making games feel more dynamic and personal than ever before. Opportunity 3: play anywhere, anytime. The days of being locked to one platform are fading fast. Sony is bringing God of War and Spider-Man to PC. Xbox is opening up to multi-platform releases. And even handheld devices like the Steam Deck are giving players more freedom than ever. This shift means more people can play great games wherever they are. And it forces studios to think beyond one ecosystem, potentially expanding their audience dramatically. Opportunity 4: global growth beyond the West. For years, much of the industry's growth came from China, and we're seeing even more markets like India, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East emerging as major players. These regions represent hundreds of millions of potential new gamers, and many local studios are producing games that are starting to break into the global mainstream. Just look, for example, at the excitement around Black Myth Wukong. For developers, this means new audiences, new cultural influences, and more diversity in the games we get to play. If you were to ask me, I actually think this is an incredibly exciting moment for video games. Where there is challenge, there is also opportunity. And it's usually in moments of crisis that reinvention and innovation happen. And we're already seeing proof of that. Smaller studios are showing us that you do not need a $200 million budget or a 1,000-person team to make something unforgettable. Just look at Clair Obscur Expedition 33 or Hollow Knight Silksong, games that are pushing the medium forward with fresh ideas, stunning worlds, and deep, meaningful gameplay. And that's exactly what I want Life About Games to be about. I started this channel to celebrate studios that dare to do something different, and to give developers practical insights and tools to help them succeed in a market that's tougher than ever. In future videos, I will be diving into topics like building better pitch decks to position games for success, and navigating the complex world of publishers, platforms, and funding. Because the more we can help great games get made and actually reach players, the better this industry will be for everyone. And for players, my mission is to shine a light on the games that deserve attention. The ones that tell meaningful stories, take risks, and remind us why we fell in love with gaming in the first place. And that brings us to the end of today's video. The games industry might be under pressure, but I truly believe it's that pressure that is going to forge some of the most creative and innovative games we've ever seen. I would love to hear from you. What do you think is the single biggest challenge facing the industry right now? And what gives you hope for the future of games? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's start a conversation. And if you found this video helpful, consider subscribing to Life About Games. In the coming weeks, I'll be diving deeper into topics like game funding, pitch decks, and how smaller studios are finding success despite the odds. So, if you want to see more great games get made, you won't want to miss those. Until next time, stay happy, keep gaming.